Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Let me set myself up. As you come in, tap the screen, repost, share, send your daily heart me's. I'm going to try to get my camera up and going for tonight's town hall. Okay, there we go. Hello. Let's go ahead and tap. Let's get those up so we can quickly get on the For You page. Welcome in. Good evening, everybody. Hello. Let me repost and share and do all the things I'm telling you guys to do. I feel like I can't see. Tonight, we are talking with Jason Reynolds. He is running for Virginia U.S. Senate. So if you know anybody from Virginia, please share live with them, our Virginia people, or anybody. He's running for U.S. Senate, so he'll be in there, really representing his state, but passing bills that will affect everybody, laws and bills. So let's go ahead and share it out to anybody you know. You should be sharing it out to everybody because it is midterms and we need everybody to get out and vote. Primary and general election. So let me add it to my story. All right, today's Wednesday. We're almost there. It's the middle of the week. How are we feeling? Let's get some conversation going in the chat. How are we feeling today? It is Wednesday, right? Make sure I'm right. Yes, it is Wednesday. How are we feeling? That it's Wednesday? Can I get some emojis in the chat? Let's do emojis. Emojis in the chat. How you feeling? Okay, Miss Nikki is happy it's Wednesday. Me too. We're almost there. Hello, Fashionable Finds. Melanie, welcome up.
Hello. I had a problem connecting. Give me 1 second.
No, you're good. I'm just asking how everybody week is going. We're excited that it's Wednesday. We're almost there. I only see one emoji in the chat. Come on, you guys. Participate so we can get on the FYP. That helps when people comment in the chat. That helps show that there's some engagement in the live and that people are liking it. So let's get some engagement in the chat. That would be great. Happy Wednesday, Jazz. Engagement. Welcome in. My other moderator is setting herself up so we can get started on this great town hall that we're going to have tonight. I hope you guys come ready with your questions. It's not Monday. Hope you guys are ready with your questions. Hope you're ready to engage, get informed. All right, looks like Melanie is getting there. Yes, it looks like we're getting people in the room. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for, you're on mute, for doing all the things. Get us on the FYP.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight, y'all. Miss Blessing's holding it down like she do, That's my DMV girl.
Yes. That's what makes this more exciting, DMV.
I truly enjoyed Brandy last night. I was like, yeah, she could be part of the DMV, even though she's not, technically. She's not. But she could be an honorary member. Yes, happy Wednesday, Miss Trish. Hi, everybody. Y'all, we're going to be talking to Mr. Jason Reynolds, who technically kind of lives in the DMV, too. That's the debate, whether or not Fredericksburg is a part of the DMV. You think they're a little out little out. Okay.
I feel like if Metro, can you get on the Metro?
Can you get on the Metro there?
That's the difference. The Metro.
No, you was not getting on no Metro to Fredericksburg at all. But
Let's see.
let's
I think
talk a
the
little
candidate
bit
might be in here
about
already.
Mr. Reynolds, and y'all keep an eye out. Let me know if he comes in. Jason Reynolds was born in New Hampshire, however, and he grew up in Florida. He lived all over the country before settling in Bailey's Crossroads, which is part of the DMV, Virginia in 2001, and finally settled in Fredericksburg in 2007. Hello, Jason. I'm just telling him all about you. Come on in, put your background on, take a seat, get settled. He is married to his wonderful wife, Leslie, of 31 years, has 2 great adult children, and owns 2 dogs and 3 cats. That's a busy house, man, sir. That is a busy house. Honorably discharged from the U.S. Army as a SIGINT. What is that? A SIGINT?
SIGINT analyst. SIGINT.
Okay, is an analyst.
SIGINT.
And there you go.
Signals intelligence.
Oh, signal intelligence analyst. Okay. And became a stay-at-home dad for 9 years. He went back to work to write wireless telecommunication studies and move on to support several IT teams. For the last decade, Mr. Reynolds here has been serving as a project program manager. And now he's decided to switch careers into politician. So, Mr. Reynolds, welcome to Our Vote Counts. It's great to have you here. Just so you're aware, you have 2 people from the DMV area. Blessings grew up in DC, and I grew up in DC and Maryland. So we are very familiar with Bailey's Crossroads and the Fredericksburg area, so to speak. So we are welcome, glad to have you here. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to run for Senate.
You know what? I was just not very happy with Senator Warner's reaction. I wasn't happy with some of his votes, really with all of his votes for Trump's cabinet picks. I was not expecting him to vote for 6 of them. I think it would have been more if people hadn't started complaining to his office that he was voting yes on so many. I also wasn't happy that he was voting to end cloture on so many nominations and end the debate early, basically allowing them to get the nominees through faster. And when I reached out to Senator Warner, he just did not give me a very good response. So I started thinking, I've been voting for Senator Warner, basically the whole time he's been in the Senate. But I've never voted for him because I believe in what he stands for. I've always voted for him because he's not the Republican. I mean, to be honest, I think the last politician I voted for that inspired me was President Obama, his first term. I really had a lot of hope, for what he could bring to the Oval Office and for what he was going to do. But I mean, pretty much since then, it's been voting against the Republican instead of voting for my values. Sorry, my cat is trying to join me in the live here.
Well, you got 3 of them. I'm just.
I do. So I decided, I don't feel old, but I know I don't have too many more elections in front of me, especially Senate. I would like to be able to vote for somebody, at least in the primary, where I can say, this person, they get my values. I'm voting for them because I really want them to win, not because I just don't want the other guy to be in office. And you know what? Nobody else at the time stood up. And I mean, really, if you look at it, it's myself, it's Dr. Daniels, and I think Greg. I think Greg suspended his campaign, maybe is what I heard.
Okay.
So there's really nobody nobody that's currently active in politics really was going to step up. So I felt I had to,
Yes.
I think it's important that we have choices on the ballot, and that, progressives, folks of us maybe even to the left of progressives, we deserve somebody that we can vote for. We can say, yeah, I know if I elect them, maybe they're not going to give me everything, but they're going to give me 75% instead of, like 10 or 15% that I'm going to get out of Warner. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I do want to let you know there is a little delay. So just be prepared that you may hear some stuff after I've said it already. I think I should have done it before. Well, we're going to get started. Let me first tell you about OVC. OVC, and I'm sorry, y'all don't have the long version right now, is a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans from all walks of life to empower voters, support candidates of integrity, and ensure every voice is heard. Through education, outreach, accountability, and action, we're building a stronger democracy, one informed vote at a time. So make sure you join us at each town hall, because your vote is your power. We're going to be informing you today about Mr. Jason Reynolds, who is running for a Senate seat in the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth of Virginia. And he's going to give us answer all of our questions tonight. And we're going to put him to the test, y'all. See if you Virginianites, Virginians, I don't know. If you all say this is our guy, okay? So, little icebreaker. It said you been all over the country. What was your favorite place to visit?
My favorite place to visit?
Or
That's gotta be
stay?
Alaska or Hawaii.
Okay.
I mean, favorite place I've lived has been Virginia, but I mean the other choices are Florida, Georgia, Texas. Not not really places you want to be if you're left of center. So
Yes. Okay, but you've been to Hawaii and Alaska?
yes,
Awesome.
I'm lucky enough to have gone to both.
That's awesome. I want to get to more Hawaii than Alaska, but that's another story. We're going to pass this along to Miss Blessings here. She's going to get us started with our first topic.
All right. Hello, Jason. Our first topic will be about economics and jobs. So, Virginia families are feeling rising costs in groceries, rent, utilities, and healthcare. What is your plan to relieve the cost of living burden?
First of all, we need to raise the minimum wage. Nationally, it's $7.25. I think $7.35 an hour. I know in Virginia it's higher. It's about to go up again. I'm hoping we get it up again now that we have a Democratic control. But it needs to be higher. People just are not paid enough. Wages are not keeping up with rising costs. And the first step to that is increasing wages. I think specific to Virginia, we also have to do something to build more affordable housing. I know where I am in Fredericksburg, we get a lot of housing built, but it's all $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 homes, which just it does not do you any good. If you're making $20, $25 an hour, you're not going to be able to afford $300,000. At the rate it's going, you can barely afford a down payment. To save for a down payment, making that much money. So we have to increase the affordable housing. We have to do something to get corporations. We have to start making them pay for the price gouging. We went into COVID. I understand prices went up. We had supply chain issues. Everything was more expensive to get because everybody was sick. We're not in COVID anymore, but prices haven't really come down since we had that COVID surge. Corporations decided that, hey, people are willing to pay that much. Why should I lower prices? I'm paying less now that, COVID's pretty much over. Let's just keep prices high, keep raking in the profits. And that's why we're seeing, people are feeling the pinch But the stock market's booming, which is great if you own a lot of stocks. Corporations are making record profits, which is great if you're running that corporation or own that corporation. But it's not helping Virginians or anybody to keep up like this. We have to have something in place that's going to punish the price gouging.
Thank you. Absolutely. Especially as a younger person looking to, buy a home, the price of homes are crazy. It's definitely not when, my parents were buying homes. I will move on to the next question, but I also want to tell the audience, if you do have a question for Jason, you can either put it in the chat or request to come up to ask your question. So you kind of talked about big corporations. Now I want to move into small businesses. How will you help small businesses facing inflation, supply chain issues, and labor shortages?
We have to start giving small businesses tax breaks, something to help them compete, with the Walmarts, with the Amazons. And to be honest, I don't know what exactly that would look like. I just know we have to do something. Small businesses are important. I love shopping, in downtown Fredericksburg, stopping by the small businesses there. But yeah, it's hard to compete when you have, Target, Walmart, Amazon, all these mega corporations, that are able to leverage their size to offer smaller, to reduce prices, larger selections. It's hard for a small business to compete with that. So we do have to do something. What exactly that is, I don't know. But I would love to put together a team to figure out what could we do to encourage people to, to shop small businesses, encourage small businesses to get started, and then encourage, be able to help them to stay in business and compete. But yeah, I don't know specifically what that would be. That's really not my area of expertise, unfortunately. But I do agree we have an issue. We need to support small businesses. And I think part of raising the minimum wage is to make sure that we're giving small businesses a tax offset to kind of let them ease into that higher wage, because I know it's going to be hard. It would be harder for them to absorb it than it would be for a Walmart, a Target, whatever.
Okay, thank you for that. I thought we had somebody requesting up, but I will move on to our next question. So how will you help workers in rural Virginia gain access to higher paying jobs without forcing them to leave their communities?
I think we have to start looking at, we have to start putting some green energy out there. Green energy jobs are great paying. We have the space. We could be putting up wind. We could be putting up solar. I would not want to put data centers out in rural Virginia. I like going out to the mountains. I like seeing rural Virginia, driving west from Fredericksburg, or southwest. I don't want to see a bunch of data centers. I'd rather see mountains. But I think we could put green jobs out there. And we also have to expand broadband so that those folks can have a good remote job and still stay in those houses, stay where they live now, but work, remotely for a good salary.
Absolutely. I don't think we have a question in the chat yet, so I'm going to pass it to Melanie to talk about healthcare.
All right. Well, thank you. In parts of Virginia, women face long wait times and must travel far to see an OBGYN, or any kind of specialist, really. What federal actions would you support to expand access to women's health care providers and services closer to home?
I would like to see the federal government providing money for more rural clinics. We need more rural clinics. We need more rural doctors. I would love to see some kind of program where, an OBGYN volunteers to serve in a rural community for 4 years. We pay off their student debt, no student, just like in the military. I think we need a civilian version of the GI Bill. You serve for 4 years, you serve your community, you get your student loans paid off. You get access to a VA type loan so that you can buy a house. but we need to be putting more money at the federal level into rural healthcare, not just rural clinics, but also we need to be encouraging, nurses, nurse practitioners, doctors to come and serve there, and not just not just be in the big city where it's a little easier to see a lot of patients, make a lot of money. We need to encourage them to be out in the rural areas.
What's that one's name?
This is Checkers.
Checkers. Okay.
Yes.
Checkers said, I was talking to you. Well, many families have insurance, but still struggle with high deductibles, prescription costs, and medical bills. And as you know, right now, there's a big back and forth going in Congress concerning the subsidies in the ACA, and which we know that if given, it can help with deductibles and premiums and all those things, right? And I think we also still need to do more with getting the prescription costs down. What solutions would you push to lower healthcare costs and protect families from medical debt?
This is one that I can definitely relate to. My wife and I had colonoscopies last year. She'll yell at me later for saying that, but we were expecting hers to be like $200, $300. We got hit with like a $1,200 bill, which we were not expecting. And we have insurance, good insurance. I think what we really need is we need either Medicare for all or, my friend Erica Kopp, who's running in the 1st Virginia district, she mentioned Medicaid for all would be even better. I'm not sure how many folks here are familiar with Medicare, but you do get more out of it if you have a supplemental plan that you pay for, which can be expensive. I know I pay for my mom's supplemental plan because it's so expensive. It would take up a huge amount of her check every month because she's on a fixed income.
Right.
But we need that. We need some kind of universal health care. I would prefer a Medicare or Medicaid for all. But whatever form that took, I know lots of people like to argue, whatever it is, we need it here. We should not be paying, as much as we do for medical care and getting the kind of results that we get. It's time it ended. I'm glad Senator Warner finally, after 17 years, came around and now supports, universal health care. That's great. I would like to ask where was he, 15 years ago? But yeah, that's the solution there. We need to go to universal health care.
And I'm with you on with the Medicare for all, because which I haven't heard a lot of people bring it to that point that make me think about the having the Advantage plan added to it, or the supplemental plan, because that's a win-win where we don't put insurance companies out of business, but we still afford American citizens with the health care they need. Like, that's a win-win. If you do have the extra funds to add on the supplemental plan, then by all means, go Blue Cross Blue Shields, go United Healthcare.
Yep.
But if you don't, you still have some coverage. I think that's a great plan.
That's what we need. Everybody in the United States should be able to go to the doctor and not have to worry about, is this going to bankrupt me? You shouldn't have a cancer diagnosis and then say, well, I've read stories about people that get divorced because, they can't afford it. So, one of them files for bankruptcy, but it's ridiculous how much medicine costs in the United States compared to other developed countries that have universal health care. And people complain about, there's going to be huge waits, there's going to be shortages. I took care of my mom for years. She had a series of strokes, so I was the one that brought her to all her appointments. She was already experiencing, huge wait times and shortages of doctors. So it's nothing new. And I think really we'd probably have better results if we had universal health care, because people wouldn't wait so long to go to the doctor.
Absolutely.
if you can go for, essentially free for whatever taxes you're already paying, why wait until you're really sick? Go get whatever the little thing is taken care of, and stay healthier.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's see. Now, women. Nope, not that one. Well, no, let's do that one. Women across Virginia are concerned about political interference in their personal medical decisions, as we know. How would you protect reproductive freedom and ensure women can make their own healthcare choices without government intrusion?
We need to codify Roe v. Wade. We can't rely on the Supreme Court. I mean, Roe v. Wade was settled law until all of a sudden they had a majority, and then it wasn't anymore.
Right.
We need a majority of Democrats in the Senate, in the House, and in the White House. We need to pass legislation that says abortion is healthcare, reproductive healthcare is healthcare, without restrictions. It's a woman's body is her body. Somebody should not be able to legislate her choices for, the healthcare she chooses for her body.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Well, we're going to go in probably to one of your favorite subjects right now, which is veterans and military support. Yes. Go ahead, Ms. Blessings.
All right. You kind of already talked about this with the universal health care, but what is your plan to improve VA wait times and benefit processing?
The same as with with rural medicine. We need more funding for the VA. We need more doctors at the VA. We need more access to VA health centers. There's no other way to put it. I know plenty of veterans that have gone through the system, and sometimes you get great results. Sometimes you're waiting a very long time and you don't get the results you're looking for. And a lot of that is the doctors are overworked, nurses are overworked. We've been shortchanging veterans for decades as far as healthcare goes. They served, they deserved to be taken care of. They were told they were going to be taken care of. We need to start thinking about, giving them the money that they need to be healthy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And my next question will be, how will you support transition programs for service members moving into civilian careers?
We need to have something. I know when my wife transitioned out, there wasn't much of a transition. It was basically here's a checklist. Go find a job. We need something so that last year you're in, they're aligning what you're doing maybe with something that is equivalent to the outside world. I know for my wife and I, that was a little hard. We were both Intel. It's kind of hard to align that. But we need to, if you're working as a lineman or something, they should be helping you to identify jobs with, infrastructure companies, that are doing that work, putting up telephone lines, putting in internet lines. They should be working. They should be working while you're still working before you're out. Instead of having something at the very end. Here's how you go on a job interview. Here's how you should dress. All that stuff. And maybe it's better. It's been a while since I was in, and my wife was in. But they need to be actually preparing you for the job market, helping you identify jobs that you could be doing, translating your skills and what you did in the military into the civilian equivalent. That's instead of just saying, here's what you did, here's help with your resume, here's how you do an interview, go find a job. They need to be helping you actually transition, spending a long time helping you transition so that day one, if that's what you want, you get out of the military and then the next Monday you're at work, doing whatever you're going to do in the civilian world.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. I want to see if there's anybody in the chat that would like to come up to ask a question about some of the topics we've already talked about: healthcare, veteran support, or economy. Thank you for your service. I know we have some veterans in the chat as well. And part of the OVC group, we have some veterans. So
Thank you for your service, sir.
yes,
No,
absolutely.
thank you. Thank you to everybody else. I didn't do a whole lot. I sat in an air-conditioned building. So, yeah.
It's
No, that's
part of serving.
the best. That's the best way to serve, in my opinion. Exactly.
Let's see.
No questions?
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any questions. So I'm going to go into what we call rapid fire, which these are quick yes or no or short answer questions. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Term limits, yes or no?
Definitely yes.
One issue in your district Congress ignores.
Oh. That's a hard one.
Or your state, or the whole state?
Healthcare.
Yeah. One thing you'd like to change about Washington on day one.
The average age.
Okay. Well, filibuster, keep or eliminate.
That one I'm
50-50.
depends on the day, I think. I would say keep it, only because Republicans are so dangerous. If they could just do whatever they wanted with a simple majority, we'd be hosed.
And last one, why should Virginia trust you with their vote?
I'm a good listener. I like solving problems. I think I would be great at listening to Virginians' problems and then trying to put together a team to try and solve them.
All right, thank you. I'm going to pass it back to Melanie.
All right. We're going to be talking about environment and infrastructure. Okay, now many roads, bridges, and water systems across Virginia are aging and in need of repair, which is affecting safety and economic growth. What infrastructure investments would you prioritize to modernize Virginia's roads, bridges, and water systems?
Oh, let's see. We definitely need to put money into the roads. I know where we are, roads can be a little iffy. I would like to see us do fewer HOV lanes. I don't think they bring the value that they're expected to. I think it just gives some better off folks a chance to avoid the traffic that the rest of us sit in. For waterways, I really don't know. I haven't done a whole lot of research on waterways. I know we do need. I liked that we had the bipartisan infrastructure bill when President Biden was in office. I think we need more of that. We definitely need to be spending money on investing in our infrastructure instead of giving tax cuts to billionaires, or buying fancy new ships that are named after Donald Trump, or some of the things that we're spending our money on now. Mm-hmm. They just don't align with helping the actual people, helping the actual states.
Absolutely. Are you familiar with this data centers that's coming up everywhere? Are you familiar with that?
I am. We have one going in just north of our house. As a matter of fact, I can see it when we go north on 95 now. So I'm very excited to see my water bill and my power bill go up, because we're giving so many tax breaks to data centers to bring them in, and then they're passing that off to just regular Virginians to pay the price.
I mean, will you propose something to limit the amount of data centers that should be built in when you get to Congress?
I would like to see a limit to the density of data centers. I would support that. I would also like to see no data centers being approved. And I know this is more of a state thing, but I would like some kind of regulation to keep data centers from being approved unless they come into the community with a verified plan to say, this is how we're going to offset our power use. We're going to build this much, green energy capacity to offset our power use. This is how we're going to cut down on our water usage. I know we were talking to somebody and they were mentioning using, requiring them to use geothermal cooling to cut down on the water waste. We need something that says to the data centers, you can't come in, you can't get a tax break from the state. You can't build these data centers and then pass all of the costs on to the consumers. That's that needs to be prohibited, outlawed.
Okay. All right. Well, as we know, across the country, there are lots of states that have problems with drinking with the water that comes from their pipes, or pollution in their area, especially in the rural areas or older areas. What steps would you take to protect clean water and hold polluters accountable?
I would like to see, if a corporation is a person as far as giving campaign donations is, I would like to see that corporation also being capable of being guilty of crimes. If a corporation, pollutes our waterways, let's charge that CEO, let's charge that board, let's send them to prison for, for stuff like that, dumping toxic waste. I'd also like to see us bump up. We're going to have to go and we're going to have to undo all of the damage that Donald Trump has done to the EPA. That's going to be the first step once we're in power again.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
my wife is motioning at me.
Well, she's telling you what?
But yeah, we need to beef up the we need to beef up the EPA. She's listening on over there to the live and occasionally popping up in the chat here. Yeah, we need to bump up the EPA. We need to bump up the enforcement. And if what it takes is throwing a CEO in jail for his company behaving badly, then I think that's what we need to do. If we threw 2 or 3 of them, if Jeff Bezos was sitting in federal prison for 6 months, some of the other CEOs might reconsider, hey, I should be really paying attention to what my company is doing environmentally, but I think that's what it's going to take. Otherwise, if we just keep fining people, $1 million or whatever the fines are, it's just not enough when we're talking about, billionaires and eventually, trillionaires with Elon Musk. You can't find your way out of making them follow the rules.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're gonna go. If anyone doesn't have any questions for Jason, about infrastructure, or the environment, I'm looking for any in the comments. I don't see much here. But if you do, just put them in there. We'll ask him. Don't worry about if we've passed the subject. We will get them questions answered. You are who he's going to be, whether or not you live in Virginia. He's going to be in the Senate, y'all. We need to know he going to vote yes on impeachment. No, I'm just kidding. So Blessings, go ahead with your next topic, please.
All right. So next, we're going to talk about public safety and community trust. How do you balance supporting law enforcement with supporting civil liberties and community trust?
I have friends. I work in alongside federal law enforcement. I can't say who because my company said I can't get too specific on my job or they'll fire me. So, but I have worked alongside federal law enforcement agencies as a contractor. I have some friends that are officers. Some are great. And we do need to support the good ones, which I know probably sounds bad. I think a lot of it comes down to, instead of spending all of this money on, armored cars or, high-powered weapons, we should be spending that money on training. I know here in Stafford County, up at the Stafford Sheriff's Office, they have a great system where it's basically virtual reality. They can go in there and they can go through all sorts of scenarios to help them prepare for it if they run into it in real life. And I know the one that I watched them demo was an autistic kid in a grocery store who forgot to pay for his candy. It was kind of trying to get the officer to walk through, this is, if you have an autistic kid, he's not going to have the same reactions that you're used to. He might not respond the way you're thinking he should. So they're training them to think, he's not responding the way I'm expecting him to, but it's not because he's a danger or a threat. It's just because he's autistic, and I think we need to spend more money on training like that. And then instead of, and then we also need to be hiring, psychologists, people that, can come out and deal with, people that are having some kind of, emotional or mental trauma without having somebody out there with a drawn weapon, So I think we should be funding the police. It's just a matter of what we should be funding them to do. And I think we need a lot more training, on how to defuse situations, how to handle things peacefully. And then we need to be putting money into the mental health professionals that go right along with that to deal with the issues, where you don't really need an armed officer. You just need somebody that's willing to go out there and listen, listen and empathize with whatever's going on with that individual.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree. I was going to follow up with a question on this line, and somebody also has a question in chat. So I kind of want to know your thoughts on ICE. We know that this has been a big thing since Trump has gotten into office, and even bigger within the last week or two. So your thoughts on that, and then the question in chat is also, are you ready to unmask and jail ICE?
Oh, sorry. If I was in office right now, I would be demanding that we immediately cease all ICE enforcement operations, put everyone that's in ICE enforcement on administrative leave, with the intent of disbanding ICE, defunding it, disbanding it. If anybody, I don't understand why states are not charging these ICE agents. I don't understand in Minnesota why the police aren't following them around, waiting for them to misbehave and then immediately arresting them. That's what we should be doing. We should not be letting them run around just because they're federal agents. They're not immune to the laws. And so, I would support unmasking and jailing any agents that are committing a crime. And most of what I've been seeing is, at least assault. So we should definitely be jailing them, and the goal should be getting rid of ICE entirely. We don't need it. And then getting rid of DHS. DHS as a separate agency never made sense in the first place. It was purely a political overreach, overreaction to 9/11. Let's get rid of ICE. Let's get rid of DHS. Let's get back to making people feel safe in their communities, letting them feel safe in their communities. Not feeling like some crazy guy with an M16 is going to come out and shoot him in the head like we just saw.
Okay. Thank you for that. If there's any more questions in the chat, or if anybody would like to come up, please feel welcome and free to do that. I want to ask a question about, would you support funding for youth support after school programs and violent prevention initiatives in Virginia?
Yes. When we first moved to Virginia, we were lucky. We had a community center just right around the block from where we lived. So our kids were able to go there after school. It was all free, paid for by the county. Every day after school, they were able to go there. They were able to, they taught them a little bit. They played games. They, participated in sports. They made friends. And I would love to be able to pass some legislation that gave states money to implement those same programs, that my kids were able to take advantage of when they were younger. It was a blessing for us as parents, because we knew our kids were safe after school. They got dropped there by the bus when school was done. They were there, supervised until they got picked up when we got done with work. So it was great not having to pay for that childcare, like a lot of folks have to do. So yeah, I would 100% vote to give states more money for those kind of programs.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. It doesn't look like we have any questions, but I do have a follow-up question about the DHS and the ICE. So I believe Border Patrol is also under DHS. So do you have thoughts or plans on how would you replace the DHS or put them into another agency? What would your plans or thoughts on that?
Let's just move them over to another agency. Or we could Border Patrol could be its own agency, its own independent agency. But yeah, I think now part of the problem is, ICE and DHS just has such a negative connotation with so many people in the United States. I know if an ICE agent came up to me and identified themselves as being part of ICE, I would be very leery of interacting with them. They've lost a lot of the, I don't know if they ever really had much trust, but they've lost whatever trust the community had. So I think we need to, all of the ICE agents need to be gone. We can't have people that have been in training for 47 days out there carrying assault weapons, doing whatever they want. I know DHS also has like intelligence analysts, stuff like that. Let's move them over to the FBI or something. And then maybe Customs and Border Patrol, maybe roll it into the U.S. Marshals. I don't know exactly what it would look like, but I think ICE definitely needs to be gone. DHS needs to be absorbed into another agency, and then we can figure out the Border Patrol part of it at the same time.
Okay, thank you. I do have one more question in the chat. It says, plans to hold Nome accountable for her lies.
Every one of those cabinet picks that has committed a crime, which at this point is just about all of them, they should be up for impeachment, and I would definitely vote for conviction in the Senate. I would like to see states try to charge them as well, especially Kristi Noem. She's just let ICE run lawless, in the communities. I would love to see a way for the states to prosecute her and the rogue ICE agents. You can't really do anything at the federal level because all Trump has to do is grant a pardon, and the whole effort's undone. So I think unfortunately we'd have to do it at the state level at the moment.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to pass it back to Melanie for our next set of questions.
All right, thank you. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Make sure y'all tapping that screen and hitting those goals up there, and make sure y'all stick around. We have another town hall right after this one, but we're going to continue this with Mr. Reynolds, and we're going to talk about education, public education. Okay, this is another big area that we are seeing with this administration right now, with them trying to dismantle the Department of Education. School districts across Virginia report teacher shortages and high turnover rates, driven in part by low pay and burnout. What federal actions would you support to help raise teacher pay and retain educators in Virginia's public schools?
It's got to start with restoring the Department of Education to what it was pre-Trump, and even more than that. Not just pre-Trump. We need to start funding. We are going to continue to have problems in the country as long as we pretend that kids don't need an education. Everybody should at least be, getting through, high school. Every child deserves to have a high school education. And then if they choose to, we should be helping them as much as we can to either get a college education, go get some kind of trade school training, whatever they want to do. We should be encouraging learning. It should be a lifelong process. I know I still love to learn. So we need to restore funding to the Department of Education. We need to start giving more money to the states, so that they can fund the kind of programs that'll keep kids interested in school, that'll keep teachers wanting to live in the communities. we need to be paying them enough so that they can live where they're teaching, first of all.
Absolutely.
And I know it's hard for a lot of states to do that. So I think at the federal level, we have to we have to come in and fill that gap.
Okay.
To make sure that we can keep the good teachers, we can keep the schools open, we can keep the ratio of students to teachers, at a place where you can still effectively teach. I do Cub Scouts on Tuesdays. I've got seven first graders in my den. I go nuts. We're there for like an hour and a half. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know how a teacher with like 20 first graders gets through an entire day. I have a hard time keeping them focused for an hour and a half, and we're just doing fun stuff. So yeah, we need to keep those student teacher ratios lower. We need to keep the schools funded. I think we need to be feeding kids breakfast and lunch. I would love to see universal free breakfast, universal free lunch in public schools. I think a full kid, I know growing up, I was one of those kids that got free lunch growing up. I know I did better if I wasn't, hungry with my stomach growling all day in class. So yeah, but it starts with just, finding the funds, which I know is a hard thing for a lot of the, Congress to do at the moment. They love giving out tax breaks. They hate paying for essential things like education. But we need to take a hard look at, where we're spending our money, what we're spending our money on, and whether what we're doing is really a good investment on the future of America.
Absolutely. I have one more question, and I'm going to ask my question from the chat. Families see uneven resources and facilities between school districts depending on the location. How will you work to ensure that federal education funding helps close gaps and support under-resourced schools and communities?
Oh, I would like to see under-resourced schools and communities served first. I did elementary school in a very poor school. We were very, very, very poor. We did not have a lot of resources at the time. Whereas other schools that maybe they had suburbs instead of apartment projects surrounding them, they had a better tax base. They were getting more funding. And I'm sure a lot of it was the fact that, we were a majority, it was a majority black school, majority black district.
And this was in New Hampshire?
No, this was in Florida.
This was in Florida. Okay.
This was in Florida. Yeah. So yeah, I think we should be spending the money on the places that need it most. And I know people argue like, oh, the test scores are bad there. Why should we spend money on students that are performing? Well, maybe those students aren't performing because we're not spending money on them. You get into that mindset where, don't throw the money after, the poor students, but that's not the way to look at it. The way to look at it is, let's give these students the resources that they need. Let's make sure that they have nice facilities to go to, that they have air conditioning, when it's hot, they have heat when it's cold. They have, plenty of teachers, good teachers that want to be there, want to teach. They have new school books. They need that. Otherwise, they're not going to want to be in school. If you're in a building that's, 90 degrees, towards the end of school, at the end of the school year, you're not going to want to be there. If you're freezing your butt off in winter, you're not going to want to be there. You're not going to be focused on your studies. So when we do eventually get that money back in education, like I hope we will, we need to be spending it on those places where they're seeing, oh, the infrastructure is bad, the students aren't doing well. That's where we need to be investing the most.
Absolutely.
Especially at the federal level. Because at the state level, you're doing property taxes, and normally, your property taxes are higher. You get better neighborhoods, and then they're spending that money on the better school. Whereas in the poorer neighborhoods, tax base is lower. They're not getting as much money generally. So that's where we need to be putting those federal dollars, into those poorer school districts to raise them up to where they should be, instead of letting them, stay down. Where the kids just don't deserve it. The kids deserve better.
Absolutely. Now, the question from the chat is, Will you protect the rights of LGBTQ plus students in Virginia schools against federal rollbacks?
Yes, I would be very, very, very happy. I have a trans son. He's out in West Virginia attending Marshall right now. I have a trans son. I will never, ever abandon, the LGBTQIA plus community. I supported him when he was just gay. Then he was bi. Now he's pan. Now he's trans. I've always loved whatever he is. I always tell him, whatever you are, I don't care. You're my son. I love you, whatever you are. Same with every other LGBTQIA plus person out there. Whatever you are, be happy that you're that. I support you. I would never allow. I would be happy to vote for federal legislation that permanently protected the LGBTQIA plus community, especially the kids.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I see one of my fellow Virginians in the comments here. Miss P's Life, he is running for a Senate seat in Virginia, so all of Virginia. But I believe currently he lives in the Fredericksburg area. Is that correct?
Yep, I'm in Fredericksburg.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's your answer, P. All right. Well, guess what?
You have one more
Jason.
question in the chat.
There is one more question.
Yeah, so somebody said that student debt is crushing Virginia graduates. Do you support a 10% cap on student loan interest rates?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. I support a 10% cap. I was very happy when the Biden administration started canceling student loans. I thought that was a great move. I wish he'd gone even further. I wish he'd walked into a bank and just had them deleted everything and then say, hey, it's part of my executive authority. I'm immune from prosecution for deleting all those, all that student loan debt. I would definitely support capping student loan interest rates. I want the government to give more student loans, make the process easier. My son, who's out in Marshall, I would love for him to have a nice, easy way to guarantee that he had money for school every semester instead of having to jump through hoops. I would love it if he was only paying 10% interest. That would make me very happy. I'd be much more confident that he's going to be able to survive as a teacher when he gets done with school if I wasn't worried about the huge student loan debt that he's having to take on. And that is important to me. My wife and I both, were lucky enough that our companies paid for school. And for her, the military paid for school. So we didn't have to worry about that student loan debt. Not to mention the fact that I could go to school for a full year on, what folks are paying one semester for now. At least it's gotten ridiculous. We definitely need to cap the student loan rates and then do something to make it easier to afford.
As somebody with student loans, I absolutely agree.
Okay. Somebody with student loans that ain't even mine loans. They for my son. I got a Fair Plus loan. Okay, not even mine. Well, we're going to do my part of the rapid fire questions, but they are fun questions. Those was political questions she gave. Now we're going to just get a little deep into how you get laid back and fun. Okay. So first question. USB backup or cloud storage?
Cloud storage.
Okay. Facebook or TikTok?
I lose the USB drives.
Yeah, me too.
TikTok.
Me too. Passion or stability?
Oh, that you know what? I'm gonna go with passion probably. I do like to be stable, but I do like to do things that I'm passionate about. So I like passion.
Excellent. Time machine or a magic wand?
Magic wand.
Okay. Me
I can
too.
imagine myself a time machine if I had a magic wand.
Exactly. A horror or a comedy?
A horror comedy. I like both. I like a horror comedy.
Okay, so I already see you gonna compromise in the Capitol. Okay. So Cavaliers or Hokies?
I'll be honest here. I'm a Florida State fan, so probably Cavaliers, because I can't remember as many bad beatings from the Cavaliers as I do some of those Hokie games
Yes.
that we lost.
Virginia Beach or Hampton, North Carolina? I mean, New Hampshire Beach.
I prefer the rocky beaches up north. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a Hampton, Virginia, y'all, and apparently there's a Hampton, New Hampshire, which is where he was born. I was looking up Hampton. I'm like, is there beaches in Hampton, Virginia? And it came up Hampton, New Hampshire. I went, now isn't that a coinky dink? Your favorite landmark in Virginia, would it be the clock in, hold on, you can tell me if it's something different.
Okay.
But the clock when you coming and going into Richmond, or the Marlboro statue?
I prefer the clock. Although the Marlboro statue is kind of it's kind of funny that you still see that Marlboro statue when you're driving south through Richmond.
Yes,
I do. That is kind of a little odd. Yeah.
I think that's all I have. Yes, that was all my questions there. So you did good. Because I had already asked you your favorite place to visit in the beginning. So with that, we are going to go to our next topic that Miss Blessings is going to give us.
Yes, we do have one question in the chat, though.
Okay.
Somebody asked, would you make it easier for college students to get food assistance?
Okay, I got to give a disclaimer here. That is my son asking that question.
Okay. He said, make it easier for me, Dad. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know what? I would make it easier for students to get food assistance. I mean, just like elementary school students, if you're in college and you're hungry, you're not concentrating on your studies if you're wondering where your next meal is going to come from. So I would definitely support making it easier for college students to get food assistance if they needed it.
All right. Well, thank you for that. A son supporting his father. That's so nice. So I'm going to go into rural Virginia. Well, let's see. I'll go into housing and community stability. What federal steps would you take to make housing more affordable for renters and first-time home buyers?
I think that we should be providing first-time home buyers with a credit, something, because I know now, my wife and I were lucky. We had a VA loan. We didn't have to have a down payment. We got a nice low rate. It was all guaranteed. We didn't have to jump through a lot of hoops. Nowadays, they're asking for 20% down. You're looking at a larger interest rate, and it's hard to come up with that 20% down. I think we need to be giving first-time home buyers a tax credit. I would like to see us providing more. I'd like to see the federal government guaranteeing more housing loans, with a lower interest rate. Take that away from the private companies that are using housing, to make a huge profit. Take some of that back. Let the federal government do it for the benefit of the people, not to make money. Your house should not necessarily be something that you buy to invest in, something that you're going to profit off of later down the road. It should be somewhere where you can live, you can be comfortable, you can be yourself, and everybody should have that opportunity, to be able to buy or to rent. And I think for renting, we need to do something about these corporations that are buying up all of the inventory and then renting it out for a profit. We need to cap the amount that you can charge for rent. We need to cap the amount that rent can be increased every year. And I think that's the first step we need to take, is to curb the buying of the private housing. A corporation does not need a private home. I realize the government says they're people, but a corporation can't live there. A person can live there, a family can live there. Let's make sure that family has the opportunity to buy, because when those big corporations buy up the inventory, it drives up the prices. which makes it even harder for somebody to save for that down payment and get that house.
Yeah. Blessings. I was just going to say real quick that, we do these corporate buyout, not buyouts, but like, if they money, what is it?
Bailouts.
The bailouts. Thank you. We do the corporate bailouts, but they're so scared to lend us money for a house. Like, bail us out, please. Can we get bailouts? He just made me think of that.
I mean, everybody, in the corporation say socialism is bad, but they love to socialize their losses, and they keep private all the gains. When we had the housing market crash, we bailed out all the all the banks, all the mortgage lenders. The people paid for that bailout. We didn't get a very good return. I certainly didn't see a very good return on, the part of my taxes that went to that bailout. And we need. I
did not get a new car.
That. Yeah, they got billions of dollars, and we got we got what we always get.
Nothing.
And that's something else that has to stop. We need to curb these bailouts. You shouldn't be too big to fail. We're not too small to fail. We don't get a bailout. If I if I have to stop paying my mortgage, they don't bail me out. They take my house away. If you can't pay for your car, they don't give you a bailout to, pay off your car to help you out. They take your car away. These corporations, they're able to give all this money to the politicians, so they're protected. We, the individuals, we generally don't have the millions of dollars to get that same kind of protection. And we that's what we need. We need it more than the corporations.
Absolutely.
So we have kind of talked on housing and how expensive it can be. So how should federal government address the homelessness and the lack of affordable housing in Virginia?
I think we need to take a look at what some of the other countries over in Europe are doing. They've had great results in housing people and then offering them training, offering them counseling. And that's they've had really good success at getting people off the streets and into, back into society by giving them a place to live, giving them training so they can go find a job. And then if they need it, giving them, drug counseling, mental counseling, whatever they need, whatever issue. Cause I know, folks usually don't choose to live on the streets. It's usually some issue. You might have, financial problems. You might have a drug problem. You might have some kind of, undiagnosed mental condition. And we need to start realizing that people don't choose to be homeless for the most part. Something puts them in the situation where they lose wherever they were previously living. And we need to address that root cause. We can't just say, oh, hey, we're going to commit them all. Or we're going to put them in jail for being homeless. That doesn't solve your problem. Eventually they get out and you haven't done anything. They go right back to being homeless. And that's what we need to do. We need to take a look at what some of the other European countries are doing. Maybe take a look at how they're taxing their people as well to pay for these things. And then that's what we need to start doing, putting these people in houses, putting them in apartments, giving them the social services they need to reintegrate them and keep them in society.
Absolutely. It sounds like we need to make our taxes work for us.
Exactly.
I'm going to pass it back to Melanie, but again, if there's any questions for Jason in the chat, you can put them in the chat or feel free to request up. Melanie?
Yes. All right. So we're going to talk about government accountability and transparency. Do you support banning stock trading by members of Congress?
Yes, I do. To be honest, I do have a small amount of stocks, individual stocks. I do a stock purchase program through my company. I own some of their stock. And then my wife and we have a very, very small portfolio of stocks. But if elected, we would convert that into a mutual fund. I think everybody in the country should have a 401k, whether you're in Congress or not. Everybody should have some kind of retirement fund that they're building towards. But I don't think the people in Congress should be buying individual stocks. They have too much power to influence stock prices, or to they have foreknowledge of things that are going to affect stock prices. They should not be leveraging that, and it's obvious that a lot of them are. You see folks that they get elected, they have a very small net worth. 4 years later, they're millionaires. And it's hard to ignore the fact that you can see folks are buying stocks. It's very suspiciously timed. And we need to prevent that.
Yeah. I when you was answering, I was thinking, I'm one of these people, like, Congress are still citizens and still people too. Like, why can't they make money, right? But when you just said that they have knowledge that, the rest of us don't, then that makes more sense of why they should be banned from stock trading.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a retirement account, you're buying some kind of mutual fund or something where it's not an individual stock that you can influence. Sure, put as much money as you can into that if you're in Congress, but don't buy Tesla and then have Elon Musk in testifying, and then Elon Musk is going to come in and answer some tough questions, so you short your Tesla stocks, you make a whole bunch of money. When the rest of us have no idea that's going to happen, that's the kind of stuff we have to stop. We have to prevent that from happening.
Absolutely. How often will you hold town halls or community forums if elected?
I'd like to do it at least weekly. I like this kind of interaction here. I like listening to people. I like trying to answer the questions. I would love to do this. At least weekly.
That sounds ambitious, but I think you might be a little busy. at least in the first 6 months, you're gonna be busy. Okay, we got work to do. Got to turn this thing back around. Okay,
I'm sure I can carve out an hour a week, an hour a week just to talk to you guys.
We appreciate that. See, you just won my vote. Thank you. I'm gonna move over to Virginia real quick so I can vote for you. All right. What is one federal program you believe needs urgent reform, and how would you fix it? Oh, you froze up a little bit.
One federal program that needs urgent reform. Did I freeze up? Am I back?
You good?
I think okay. One federal program. I think we need to look at the Pentagon. Would be we spend way too much money on things that don't directly benefit our troops. And I think that's a lot of what we could use. We could cut our budget a lot if we just took a look at Pentagon spending and started cutting some of these huge programs that really do nothing, or they're holdovers, from decades ago. But if we're gonna be spending money at the Pentagon, we should be directly aiding our troops. Their quality of life, their effectiveness. So we really need to take a hard look at some of these contracts. Especially like we just learned that the Pentagon's going to start using Grok AI from Tesla, which I'm sure is going to be a $1 billion contract. Exactly the kind of thing that we should be looking at and cutting.
Okay. All right. My last question in this area: do you currently have any bills that you have in mind, that you already have written up, that you already know that you're going to present and sponsor in Congress?
I don't have anything fully fleshed out, but I've already been talking with my wife, coming up with an outline for capping interest rates. We need to cap student loans at no more than 10%. I think we should cap credit card and those kind of personal loans at 10%. I think it's ridiculous that you put money in your bank, they give you maybe 4%. If you're lucky, you're getting 4%. You try and borrow money from your bank. If you get a credit card, they're charging you probably 25, 30%. Even a personal loan, they might be charging you as much as 15, 20%. There's a disconnect there that just doesn't make any sense. They give you so little for the money, they ask so much. We need to cap those interest rates. I've also, it's not my legislation, but the Democrats do have a bill to deschedule marijuana. I've read a lot of it. There are a few things in there I would like to see taken out, but I would support that. And then Medicare or Medicaid for all. The bill is not all fleshed out, but I'm sure we're going to have some good progressives in Congress, at the end of this year that would love to help me craft a Medicare or Medicaid for all legislation and get it passed.
Absolutely. I know I said that was my last one, but Virginia is a very light purple. It could go either way, really. What are you going to do to win over that red vote? To convince people to put you, a blue Democrat, into the White House. I mean, into the Capitol, not the White House.
Well, I think when you go and you talk to Republicans and you get away from, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you can put that aside, if you talk to them, they're suffering from the same issues. Healthcare costs are out of control. So, the fact that I want to lower healthcare costs, it's across the board. It's not just a Democrat or Republican issue. Same with housing costs. You're not getting lower housing costs because you're a Republican. Being a Democrat doesn't raise your rent. That's a universal issue. So I think it's just a matter of getting in front of them, talking to them, and explaining that, because I'm sure I label myself as a progressive, which to Republicans, that's like a curse. You're cursed. You're a progressive. But really, it's a matter of convincing them that progressive issues are not. It's not communism. It's, just helping the people to be able to afford to live in the state, to be able to afford to live in the country. And I think part of that is maybe reframing some things. If you say you're a democratic socialist or a Republican, they say, they hear socialist and immediately they go to communism, they go to bread lines, they go to Russia in the 80s. But I think if you were to explain to them, like, hey, you support socialist policies now. The roads you're driving on, that's a socialist policy. Everybody pays for those roads, taxes, and then we all get to use them, equally. Your fire department, if your house burns down, the fire department doesn't come out, put out the fire and then hand you a bill for $10,000. Your taxes, everybody's taxes paid for that fire department. They come out, they put out the fire for free. That's another socialist program that everybody accepts. They just don't realize it's socialist until you explain it to them. So I think that would probably help. Socialism's not bad. Socialism is just making sure that we're providing services for everybody, Democrat and Republican all over the state. Everybody's getting equal services, the equal services that they deserve.
Absolutely. Well, if anyone has any questions at all, this is the open forum, open time for any questions. So if you have any, you can put them in the chat, or you can request up. Hit the multi-guest button at the bottom, the red and blue people, and come on up and ask Mr. Reynolds a question if you like. If not, Ms. Blessings is gonna. Okay, so would you be willing to back some form of universal basic income? What does that mean, Noodle?
And then it looked like we also have one
okay,
request. Oh, go ahead, sir.
So universal basic income would be everybody gets a certain amount of money, guaranteed, every year, every month, whatever it is, just to kind of make sure you can afford to live. I think we're going to need something like that, especially with the AI boom. There's really no way to put it back. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. AI's out. It's already taking jobs. It's going to continue to take jobs. I think we should be taxing those AI companies so that anybody that is laid off, if AI takes your job, you should not be broke because of that. AI is supposed to make our lives easier. Obviously, if AI leads to you getting fired, it's not making your life easier. So I think the AI companies that are pulling in these huge profits right now. They should be providing a fund, for some universal basic income, especially for people that are affected by AI related job cuts.
Yeah, and there are some countries out here that do give their citizens a monthly stipend, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean there are cities in the U.S. that have pilot programs that give people monthly universal basic income, and the results are always very positive. You give that money to people, and then what do? They go and they spend it on the community. They're out there, they're supporting the small businesses. They're paying for things with that money. It's not like when you give a billionaire a tax break, that billionaire is taking that tax break and they're hoarding it somewhere. If you give $1,000 a month to a regular person, they're spending that $1,000 in the economy, making it better. And that's, I think it would be a win-win if we could do something like that.
Absolutely. Miss Ayana, welcome to the panel. Thank you for joining me. Blessings, and Jason here. What's your question?
Oh my God. Hello. It's my first time being up here. I'm so excited to be here. I'm lying, of course. I'm a seasoned veteran.
Yes.
I'm a member of the OVC team, full disclosure.
Yes.
Also, hey, hi, Mr. Reynolds. Hi.
Hi.
I'm a nerd for C-SPAN. I love to watch the hearings, Senate, U.S. House of Representatives. I love it, love it, love it. Today I was watching, and they proposed. They were talking about a couple of different things. They were talking about AB law, the AB pill. They were talking about campaign financing and a whole host of other things. If you get into the Senate, what is the first piece of legislation you would introduce on the floor that you can get bipartisan support for?
That's a tough one. The bipartisan
part.
I
just asked this question, Ayana, but you threw in that you can get bipartisan for.
Well,
that's
yeah, because it seems like the Senate if you don't have bipartisan support, you can forget it, right? Like they're trying to get the ACA. The ACA subsidies have moved on to the Senate now. If they can't get bipartisan support, it's a wrap, right?
You know what? To be honest, the way it is right now, I'm not sure you could propose a kittens are great bill in the Senate, put it up, and the Republicans are just not gonna vote for it. They're gonna tell you dogs are better. I'm not gonna vote for this bill. I don't think in the current climate, bipartisanship, it's just not a thing anymore, really.
Really? You think that really? Like, not at all.
I mean, maybe once Donald Trump is gone, maybe we'll go back. I mean, there was a time when I looked at some Republicans and I was like, yeah, I can maybe see voting for this guy. I mean, it was forever ago. 30 years, 25 years. We've just gotten so Donald Trump has made everything more politicized, and he's just drugged the Republican Party to a place where they are just unwilling to cooperate. Look, we have all of these senators. Everybody's saying, oh, we need the ACA subsidies. But look at what happened. The Senate, decided that they were not going to go forward, even though the House passed it. There's just this combativeness between the two parties now. That I just don't know how we get beyond. I really think it's going to take a fundamental change, on the Republican side, because I do see Democrats that are willing, to work with Republicans, but I don't really see it the other way. If a Republican were to bring like Medicare for all, if a Republican were to bring that up, and it didn't have some kind of crazy provision in it, that prevented trans kids from getting treatment or something like that, I would definitely vote for it. But like we've just seen, you can have ACA, credits that are widely supported by both, members of both parties, that somehow get defeated in the Senate. It's
And
it's just a
that's
crazy political situation.
that's my point. There has to be some way to get bipartisanship in the Senate. We've seen it before. We saw it with the passing of the ACA initially in, what was that, 2010? We saw that. It's happened. And I know you said it was so long ago. You're potentially going into the office, and I'm not trying to be combative at all. Just
No,
trying to make a
I'm
point.
looking at you because he told you it's Trump, ma'am. It's
Well,
Trump.
but no, but even if it's not Trump, that ideology is going to survive Trump, right?
Okay, I can hear that. That we have to try to work through this now.
Yes, we
I
have to
get you.
try to work through that now because the ideology is going to survive him, even if he is no longer in power. People who think like him and who vote like him and who love his style of politics are still going to be in office, and they're still going to try to make it difficult. So we have to find a way. You're going into an office where you're saying, there's no hope of me ever working with any of these people. So why do it? Why do it?
You know what? I'm hoping that we have, I'm hoping that we have a majority in Congress here. Maybe not this time around. The Senate map looks a little sketchy, but you never know. I'm also hoping that maybe on the Republican side we get a reverse Tea Party. The Tea Party drove the Republicans so far to the right. I'm hoping that those Republican voters start to realize that they're not really getting any benefit for all of these policies that they're electing people to support.
That's the key. That will be the key. It'll be the
taking
constituents.
ACA,
It'll have to be the
that's exactly
constituents
what we
that
need
you
is we need those
convince.
constituents.
Yes. They'll have to be the ones calling
that's what
their
it's gonna
senators
take.
and representatives saying, hey, I don't like what you guys are doing. I think you should be voting for this bill that the Democrats have put up because it's going to help me and my family. That's what it's going to be. It's not going to be trying to
Yeah.
convince the politicians. It's going to be trying to convince the people.
Yeah, we really need on the Republican side, and to be honest, we need the Democratic side as well. Everybody's got to start shifting left. We've gone so far right. I don't even recognize, the center anymore. It's completely different than it was when I was a first time voter. That center now is, people will say, oh, that's far left. If you were to bring back some of those politicians, they'd be progressives, whereas then they were centrists. We need that on the Republican side, especially. We need the voters to start saying like, hey, this guy voted, he voted to end the ACA subsidies. My health insurance went up. I'm paying double, triple what I was paying before.
Exactly.
What is he doing? What is he doing that's helping me? I need to be, I need to be engaging with him to tell him like, hey, start voting for things that help me, or I'm not going to vote for you. But I don't think we've seen that happen yet. Hopefully this year with people losing health insurance, people not being able to go to the doctor because they can't afford it. Maybe that will start driving that kind of engagement that we need from Republican voters to their representatives. But I think the Republican senators, there's just so much division, and I think Donald Trump did a lot to kind of foment that division. He's definitely been nurturing it, for the last 12 years. So I think we need that to change, but I really couldn't see getting wide bipartisan support for much of anything right now.
Okay, well, I've tortured you enough. I gotta go.
Thank you, Miss Ayana.
Thank you.
I will see you in a few. Okay. We got another one of these things.
All right. See you later.
All right. We do have someone else. I am going to bring them up. But I do want y'all to know we just have just a few more minutes left in this town hall. It has been a pleasure talking to Mr. Jason here. But let's see. Well, maybe we don't. I think he has decided not to come up. But that's okay. Then now Miss Pixie Knits did ask, what about dark money influence? Do you know any?
Okay.
You have any feelings about that?
Again, I'm gonna have to say that is my wife, and so she knows how I feel about this. we need to get money
I love
out
the
of
family all
politics.
here. I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
We need to get the dark money especially out of politics, but we really need to get all of the big money out of politics. Where I know if you were to go to my website, you're going to see a donate section. If you click on that link, it's not going to my Act Blue page. Right now, it's going to Feeding America, because I think Feeding America, they need money more than a politician does. I get it. You need money to run a campaign. I realized early on, though, I'm never going to outraise
Raise.
Senator Warner. He's got $11.5 million in the bank as of last quarter. I haven't even checked to see if they've updated the numbers. I'm never going to get that ever. Why even compete? I'm going for as grassroots as I can, as little money as possible, and I think that's the way it should
Put on a
be.
parade.
All the dark money does is it gives the rich extra influence over these politicians. If you can give $1 million to a PAC, or millions of dollars in Elon Musk's case to a PAC that's going to spend that, directly on a politician, how is that any different than giving money to directly to a politician? We need to do something to curb that, and we need to overturn Citizens United is really what it boils down to. Corporations are not citizens. There should absolutely be limits on how much they can give, just like there's limits on how much an individual can give. So we need to overturn that, and then we need to get rid of the super PACs. If you don't want somebody knowing that you gave money to a super PAC that's going to spend that money, maybe there's a reason that you didn't want people to know that's why you did it. And I think that's an issue. If you're going to spend money to get somebody elected, somebody should know, Jeff Bezos gave this person this much money, and now they're passing legislation that's favorable to Amazon. Elon Musk gave this guy, this much money. Now Tesla's getting, SpaceX is getting a new contract.
Right. Yeah.
We deserve to know that. We regular people, we can't ever have that kind of influence.
That's true.
And it's completely unfair. It's it completely skews the balance of power. And that's why we are in the situation we are in now.
I agree. Well, like I said, we're gonna have Miss Blessings. You roll us on up out of here. Just my little bit of advice. Having lived in Louisiana for 15 years, people love a parade where you throw them some beads. So just bring a parade through Richmond. That's one of the big hubs, and you got to vote. That's my answer. Go ahead, Blessings.
Well, Jason, I want to thank you for joining us tonight at OVC. So I just want to ask you, what is your final message to voters as we head into Election Day? And then how can voters find you and support you through, your websites and social media?
Okay, so can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, one of my headphones died. But okay, my final message to voters is get registered and go vote. I don't care what party you're in. I don't care how old you are. If you can register to vote, go out, get registered and vote. If you don't vote, nothing is ever going to change. It's just going to keep in the same state we're in or possibly get worse. So please, I know I'm not for everybody. Go out, get registered to vote, even if you're going to vote for Mark Warner. Just go out, get registered, vote often, every time you can. And then how can people connect with me? I'm here on TikTok. I've got a website for the campaign. I'm on Facebook. I've got a group. I'm on Blue Sky a lot. I'm on Threads. I'm on Instagram. Basically all of the social media sites, you can find me there, except for X. I will not support Elon Musk. He is a Nazi. I don't know if I want to say that. But
You can't say that word on TikTok.
I know. He said, I know I'm not supposed to say that. Move to the side a little bit so folks can see your website.
my.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
yeah,
that's
there we
my
go.
campaign website.
Mm-hmm. All right,
So I think
y'all.
I've got my link tree on my TikTok profile that has all of the social links. So
Okay.
I just want to say I had a great time. Thank you very much for the invitation. This is the kind of thing I love. Getting to answer questions directly from people. That's what I like to do. So I enjoyed it. I'm very thankful that you guys had me on. So.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us. And then I also want to invite you and the audience to join us for our next town hall, which will also be happening tonight at 9 p.m. with Brent Mulrooney. He's running for Maryland State Senate District 31. And then I also want to invite you to what we have every other Sunday, which is a round table where we just have a panel full of candidates where you guys discuss various topics and kind of bounce ideas off each other and talk about you guys' campaign and what you're running for and how people can also, again, support you. So you will get an email.
That would be great. I would love to do that.
Yes. So again, I just want to thank everybody for coming in tonight and remind you who we are. This is Our Vote Counts, a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans from all walks of life to empower voters, support candidates of integrity, and ensure your voice is heard. Through education, outreach, accountability, and action, we're building a stronger democracy, one informed vote at a time. Join us. Your vote, your power.
Absolutely.
I thought you had something to say, Melanie.
No, I was saying one vote. One informed vote.
Okay. Thank you, guys. We'll see you back here at 9 p.m. Thank you,
right
Jason.
back.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you. What is OVC?
I don't know. Maybe we'll stay.